Now.
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
WMAL. 5:06, O'Connor and Company. It's Friday, the 10th day of January. Thanks so much for tuning in here as we finish up this week and send you into the weekend with a little bit of snow tonight, but we'll get to that in a minute. Coming up at 7:05, Tom Fitton, Judicial Watch on the pending sentencing of Donald Trump today as the Supreme Court punted and said, sure, go ahead and sentence him. What do we care? 7:35, Bram Weinstein on this weekend's first playoff game for the Commanders in several years. 8:05, Virginia Attorney General Jason Miyares will join us. And then we're hoping to check in with Brett Baer, but we're not sure yet. He's very busy news cycle, as you know. So we'll let you know if he's going to join us or not. It's Patrice Onwuka, though. I know Patrice is here. Good morning, Patrice. No? All right, maybe Patrice is not here. All right, we're going to try. Go ahead, Patrice.
It's a happy Friday, Larry.
It is. My gosh, we want to make sure that you're jumped aboard here. Everyone demands to hear the Friday celebration from Patrice.
That's right.
So thank God we made that happen. Oh, I don't know what to tell you other than the fire devastation continues out of Los Angeles, and it's for LA and the state of California is one of those places where it's so big that almost everybody, it's one of like 1 or 2 degrees of separation, right, from people that are in your life, if not family members. I never checked. Yeah. Do you have family or anyone that you know in California?
I don't. I visited a couple of times, but I really don't have too many folks or maybe a few friends out there. Some of the places are beautiful, others not so much. But still, it is one of the beautiful places that I love, and it's so hard to see the devastation.
Yeah, and it just continues, and so much of this, sadly, listen, I don't think there's anything wrong with the fact that when something like this happens and there's not enough firefighters to be able to fight the fire, and there isn't enough water coming out of the fire hydrants at 3 a.m, fire hydrants just run dry and firefighters are left high and dry, that immediately I think it's fair for individuals, whether it's a partisan political argument or whether it's just criticism of bad governance and bad management, to be able to step up and say, what the hell, this is really, there's some things you should be able to count on. If there's a fire, there should be enough firefighters to fight the fire. If there's a fire, there should be water coming out of the fire hydrants. And boy, yesterday we saw huge amounts of, public shaming of any individual who steps out and says, hey, this is wrong. California's been dealing with these fires for decades, and suddenly there's no water in the fire hydrants. What's the governor doing? What's the mayor doing? Oh, the mayor is in Ghana. What the hell is that all about? And yesterday we had this full court press of media and Democrats saying, how dare you politicize this? I'm not politicizing it. I'm demanding answers from a government which, by the way, charges the highest taxes in the country.
Absolutely.
And, let's make sure you get some bang for your buck. It's outrageous. And so the mayor was finally there. She was indignant that anyone would dare to ask her whether it was appropriate for her to be in Ghana. I mean, I'm sure Ghana's a beautiful place, Patrice, but if you're mayor of LA, maybe you should stay put in LA.
Well, especially as soon as you see what's going on. I mean, she should have been on the first flight out as soon as there was any inkling of potential wildfires in that area. But she kind of took her sweet time. And then I posted it yesterday. You have video of her getting on an airplane, and she's asked by maybe a reporter, maybe it was just a regular person, hey, what do you have to say? She was at first she seemed like a deer in the headlights, and then she was just tight-lipped and didn't want to say anything, and they had to chase her around. She refused to acknowledge the questions. I mean, how hard could it have been to just say, listen, my heart breaks for the people of my constituents. My heart breaks for these people, and I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that we save as many people as possible, protect as much property as possible, and help them rebuild as quickly as possible. But she couldn't muster something as simple as that. That speaks to her heart.
Right. Yep, we spoke about it yesterday. There was a reporter from Sky News. He was Irish, and he recognized her waiting to exit off of the tarmac or onto the tarmac from the airplane. And you're right. I mean, you're an elected official. You're the mayor of Los Angeles. How hard is it to just look and say, listen, I'm on my way right now. I just got wheels down. I understand your questions. I'm not prepared to answer all of them, but I do want to say this to the people of Los Angeles. And then for God's sake, you're a politician. That's the bottom. That's the bare minimum of what you're supposed to do.
You have to be ready.
Well, meanwhile, as all of this pushback occurred yesterday, telling us that how dare you suggest, by the way, this is from the same Democrats and the same media, that while, God help us, when children at a school are still lying in pools of blood during a tragic school shooting, they don't hesitate to jump in front of a camera and start yelling at Americans about their Second Amendment rights. You know, but suddenly we're not allowed to so-called politicize the issue when homes are burning to the ground because the city of Los Angeles and the state of California has been so mismanaged over the decades, but that they politicize gun rights at a moment's notice. Stop. Just forget. And by the way, when they're all out there gaslighting you, Adam Schiff and Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass and all of those apologists for the one-party rule of the state of California and the county and city of Los Angeles, and saying, no, there's nothing we could have done. We're competent. We know what we're doing. Suddenly, everyone who lives in Los Angeles County on their smartphone got this emergency alert telling them to evacuate.
Okay.
Every single can I tell you, LA County is gigantic. It is so big, and I think if it's not the most populous county, it is the second most populous county. I think it is actually the most populous county in America. It is so vast. Everyone's calling me saying, "Oh, are your kids okay? Or is your family okay?" My kids live in LA County, but they are so far removed. They're like 45 miles from these fires.
Oh, wow.
40 miles.
That's
it's a
massive.
huge county. It's a huge county. Every single citizen of Los Angeles County got an alert that says this is an emergency message from the Los Angeles County Fire Department. An evacuation warning has been issued in your area. Again, every person in the county.
Oh, man.
Remain vigilant of any threats and be ready to evacuate. Gather loved ones, pets, and supplies. Continue to monitor local weather, news, and the webpage alertla.org for more information. That was the alert you get. You know, when you get emergency alerts on your phones?
Yes,
So,
yes.
of course, after the last 2 days, every person in LA County starts to panic. They're going, turns out, Patrice, that was an oopsie mistake.
Oh, my goodness.
Somebody at the LA County, somebody hit the wrong button. Sorry. Sorry if you got that alert. That was just a mistake. This is the LA County. Of course, it's telling us how competent and wonderful they are, and they had nothing to do with what just happened.
To send out accidentally an alert like that, number one, I wonder about the protocols. Alerts with it going to 9.6 million people. It should go through a number of reviews and people
sort of
say
stopgap.
sign-offs at some point in time.
Yeah.
So I don't buy that it was just an accidental. Maybe an intern pressed the send button on a draft text message or alert. I mean that within itself, you have to ask about the procedures and where the failures are in the procedures. But man, there are so many failures. And you wonder, well, if they've been failing in so many ways, what have they actually been focused on? It's unfortunate when you start to see, and we're getting details on some of the initiatives that they've been focused on. And frankly, it's not about saving property, life, or people or pets in an event of an emergency. It's everything else.
Yeah, thankfully, though, yes, Democrats have failed the people of Los Angeles and the city, county, and state of California. But at the national level, you still got Joe Biden, who held a briefing with Kamala Harris about their administration's response here in the final days of the Biden administration. And he had this to say as he handed the microphone over to Kamala Harris.
Madam Vice President, I know you're directly affected, so you fire away. No pun intended.
All right.
Fire away. No pun intended. Wow, at least the Democrats
gall
are on
to
brand.
say that. The gall he had to say that.
All the way up to the top, they're on brand. They're all complete and total incompetent morons. It's 5:15, but how do you really feel?
WMAL.
Making sense of the news.
Live.
From the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios.
Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
5:18 here, O'Connor and Company. It's Larry and Patrice on a Friday.
Yes, it is.
People have been looking at these fires in Southern California. They've been looking at some of the overhead shots, especially when the fires start to break out. And it almost looks like there's a pattern. Now, a lot of people, and I can tell you from my experience in the past when I've lived through these fires too, that's oftentimes what it looks like. It's because the wind blows in gusts and blows these embers from one fire to the next to the next. Used to be the wood shake shingles that people would use before they they outlawed them and had people do ceramic shingles. And, of course, people in California, it's like, oh, well, we're not going to have wood shingles anymore, so we don't have to worry anymore. The fire won't spread. No, there's other things that will spread the fires, like those beautiful palm trees that you've got. You still need to do the regular mitigation of the extra wood kindling and all of the undergrowth and all that stuff. Anyway, you look at these shots, and it looks like, wow, there's a pattern. It almost looks like there's arson. And in some cases, Patrice, sadly, tragically, outrageously, the subsequent fires that happen after either a lightning strike or a down power line or just some sort of natural occurrence, they do end up being copycat arson fires.
Interesting.
It appears that's the situation with what's called the Kenneth fire, which is one of the fires out near, I think, the Altadena area. Here's a Los Angeles police spokesperson who was speaking to reporters last night about what appears to be the arrest of a suspect.
What we know right now is that the incident started here, and about 30 minutes later, a suspect was detained over in Woodland Hills area by citizens.
So someone purposely set the Kenneth fire?
At this time, that's what we believe, yes.
Do you know how or why they did that?
That I don't know.
Is this a crime scene right now?
Yes.
So everything's closed off?
It's being investigated as a crime.
Did you hear that also about he was detained by citizens? People saw him setting the fire or saw him fleeing the scene after. Allegedly. Obviously, we'll see it still unfolding. But so all of you who are thinking, it's so weird. You see these fires and suddenly they are all popping up. It looks like someone is setting them. In some cases, they're going to find out that a lot of these fires were arson. I still think that you're going to find some of these fires, especially the original fires that started in the Palisades, Santa Monica Mountains area, were caused by one of these homeless encampments, because so many of the fires over the past several years have been started that way because they've allowed these people, these criminal vagrants, to live up in the hills, and they have campfires and they have propane tanks, and this is what has happened in the past, and that's the exact region where I remember it happening in the past with these homeless encampments. So it's just one horrible mess after another at this point.
Well, what I'm reading here in the New York Post, they're reporting that this suspect is a homeless man in his 30s. That's according to Fox LA's Alex Michelson. So he appeared to the firefighters have gained the upper hand of the blaze, but this man, and if this is the picture that I'm looking at that they're posting, I won't speculate about his citizenship, but it's very possible. There may be some questions about, how long he's been a resident of the county and where he came from.
It's L.A. Who knows at this point? That old citizenship. Like, that's even an issue anymore in California. Gavin Newsom has told everyone from everywhere, just come here, we'll give you everything that you need. Of course, we don't have any money left over for water in the fire hydrants or anything like that, but hey,
Well, it's maddening, but okay. So there's, two issues aside. The issue of if this isn't based on an arson. Obviously this man needs to be held accountable for it. But the other issue is absolutely how the fires have been managed and prepared for, and that's a failure of government. And what I don't hope happens is that, well, there's an arson, we're going to throw all the blame on him, and then all of the attention is shifted away from the policymakers and from the fire department and from all of the people who are responsible to ensure that this doesn't happen or it can be remedied very quickly. If there is a fire.
The attention will steer away from all of those people, but they'll still remain focused on climate change, you see, because climate change is what inspired the arsonist in the first place. And people are taking pictures of fires starting, in the major urban areas, like in Hollywood, on Sunset Boulevard, on Hollywood Boulevard. Those aren't from wildfires. I'm sorry. The embers didn't fly across a half a mile of concrete and buildings to get to a sidewalk. There's definitely arson going on. And get this, Henry Winkler, the Fonz from Happy Days.
Yes.
He took to social media and he said, there's an arsonist here in L.A., and may you be beaten unrecognizable, the pain you have caused. And everyone started slamming. He had a Daily Beast article. Henry Winkler slammed for fueling viral L.A. fire theory. First of all, there's nothing outrageous to think that there may be an arsonist involved in some of these fires, right? You should, but secondly, the Daily Beast put out that article saying that Henry Winkler is slammed for fueling viral L.A. fire theory. literally like an hour before LAPD announced an arrest in a suspected arson case. The whole thing is a hot mess in Southern California. In fact, I'm flying there in a few hours because I want to check on my kids, and I'll see for myself. I'll be right back here Monday morning. One thing, though, I want to give you an update on David Muir's wardrobe. We mocked him mercilessly yesterday because he wanted to make sure he looked good in his tight-fitting fireman's coat. He was very unhappy that it made him look a little too boxy, so he used clothespins in the back to tighten it up and make it have that snug fit. Yesterday, David Muir, very serious journalist for ABC News, he was wearing the same fire coat, but this time he didn't try to cinch it up. He had it unzipped, so it was just free-flowing. You could still see the tight, muscle-bound black T-shirt underneath the fire coat. He went for a different
Hollywood.
look.
He's got to show off his physique a little bit. I mean, but
he's got fantastic hair.
He has great hair. He is very handsome, but he's very small. He's tight. He's like a miniature fit in your breast pocket type of.
Well, then he's got to overcompensate with all the work that he does at the gym. So he left his fire coat on, but it's unzipped, which, by the way, I don't think is up to code. In fact, I don't think it's giving you much protection. But you look fabulous, David. Absolutely fabulous. It's 5:24.
Making sense of your world.
There are a lot of things that really tick me off.
News Talk 105.9 WMAL.
Making sense of the news. Now.
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
5:37. It's O'Connor and Company this Friday morning, the 10th day of January, as we have a lot of business still here in Washington, D.C. Yesterday was the state funeral for Jimmy Carter. We're now 9-10 days away from the inauguration. We just got word from the Supreme Court yesterday that the sentencing of Donald Trump will proceed in Manhattan. We're going to get to all of that, and, of course, the fires on the West Coast. 7:05, Tom Fitton, Judicial Watch. 7:35, Bram Weinstein on the Commanders, the Burgundy and Gold, preparing for playoffs down in Tampa Bay. 8:05, Virginia Attorney General Jason Miyares. And then 8:35, Brett Baer, Fox News Channel. That's Patrice Onwuka. Good morning, Patrice.
Good morning. Happy Friday.
Thank you for that. Okay, Supreme Court chimed in. It was a 5-4 decision. Rejecting Donald Trump's hope that his sentencing in the so-called hush money case up in Manhattan. This, of course, was when Alvin Bragg, the DA there, literally invented a new way of looking at a law that had already run out its course on the statute of limitations. This was what they alleged in Manhattan, which will be overturned on appeal, make no mistake, is that Donald Trump was guilty of campaign finance violations because he did not use campaign money. He used his own personal money to pay a non-disclosure agreement to the actress who performed in films as Stormy Daniels. Now, this is what they call a hush money case, right, which is a non-disclosure agreement. Every single person in the media who makes that claim that it's hush money also has a non-disclosure agreement in their contract. But set that aside for a moment. They're saying that it was a campaign finance violation because he didn't use campaign finance money. However, if he had used campaign finance money, he could have been charged with a campaign finance violation. So either way, right?
It makes no sense.
But to compound all of that, Patrice, the district attorney of Manhattan does not enforce campaign finance laws.
That's right.
That's not his job. And so he figured out a new way of going after him. It was an accounting. He went after him for an accounting violation. But because the accounting violation was used to so-called cover up a federal campaign finance law, that made it rise to felony. He literally made that argument to the jury. And, of course, the jury, in an 80% anti-Trump district, found in favor of the prosecution. And now the president won the election. He's about to take the office. And the judge in this case scheduled the sentencing for today, 10 days before inauguration. Now, he wanted the Supreme Court to stand in the way of that. The Supreme Court voted 5-4 with Roberts and Amy Coney Barrett siding with the liberal justices that this sentencing can go forward. And their logical argument was, well, listen, he can appeal the sentencing, and he has every means of appealing that and moving it along, so there's no reason to stand in the way of the sentencing. which doesn't make legal sense to me. But Tom Fitton of Judicial Watch will join us coming up at 7:05 to talk through this whole thing. But it's just, when will this end? The American people knew full well what was going on in Manhattan, even if it was reported to them through slanted lenses in the mainstream media, and they still overwhelmingly voted for Donald Trump. They want him to be president. This sentencing is a waste of time, and it's only meant to be a political attack on Donald Trump. The judge in this case is an absolute... Oh, one other thing, Patrice. I know you're dying to get in here. One other thing.
Okay.
During the entire trial, cameras and recording devices were not allowed in the courtroom, right? So we had to rely on Anderson Cooper and George Stephanopoulos to tell us what really happened. And you know how they told us what really happened. We weren't able to see anything else. Today, for the sentencing, for the really highly politically charged and embarrassing and horrible hit on the incoming president, today, Judge Merchan said, we want all the cameras and recording devices we can get. Come on in, everybody. I want the world to see live the sentencing procedure, but not for the trial. No, we couldn't see anything during the trial. Unbelievable.
It is unbelievable. I think at this point, people are exhausted by all of the efforts, the lengths to which lawfare has been used against President Trump to stop him from to stop Americans from supporting President Trump. That was the initial, that was the goal, to smear him so much and to turn him into a convicted felon, to turn him into the worst part of a society, someone who should not be even considered good enough to walk into a courtroom, much more to walk into the White House and to assume the Oval Office. That's what they tried to do. And the American people said, no, this is the person that we want to lead this nation and, frankly, to lead the free world. And yet at the same time, you have a judge in Merchan who said, you know what, whatever I can do to torpedo the President Trump, to slow down the proceedings or to accelerate the proceedings, whatever it is I can do, even though I know at the end of the day, this would be appealed, this would be overturned, I'm going to do it because it's going to curry me favor somewhere down the line or to advance a political agenda here. I think it's a slap in the face to the millions of voters who elected him by popular vote and by the Electoral College. That's just my perspective,
Patrice,
though.
You're right. You're 100% right about it. And the other danger here is that this opens up the door to lawfare during the entire second term. This basically, what's stopping Alvin Bragg from bringing other charges against Trump for something that may have allegedly happened before he became president? And the Supreme Court is saying, well, yeah, it doesn't affect you in terms of when you were president, so just let it play out. You can use the appeals process if you don't like. So while he's supposed to be president of the United States, he's going to be distracted by all of these attacks, and those attacks are coming. As soon as he becomes president, he's going to get faced with criminal charges, civil charges, various people. They're all going to try to disrupt because this is what they do. This is lawfare at its best, and they're not going away. And the Supreme Court, sadly... All right, a little bit more on the fires here. The squad has chimed in from Washington, D.C., Patrice. Remember how we were told we're not supposed to...
Are they still even around? I mean, I thought some of them lost their seats.
No, only the one, Jamal Brown. Oh, and actually the one out of St. Louis as well. She's gone, Cori Bush.
Yes, Cori Bush, that's right.
Pramila Jayapal is still alive and kicking. She posted a video of a McDonald's in the middle of an inferno with the wind blowing 100 miles an hour and palm trees burning. And, that's somebody's business. That's a franchisee.
Yes.
Some family owns that McDonald's.
That's right.
She decided to post it and say, corporations got us into this mess, but even they can't escape the devastating reality of climate change. I mean, there's a lot to unpack there. I mean,
come on now. How insensitive could you be?
Not only insensitive,
that's just a stupid thing to say.
It's nonsensical, and it's like you look at this and all you can think of, wow, it's corporations' fault and climate change. And we'll blame McDonald's for being burned down or whatever the hell point she's trying to make. But, Patrice, listen to this.
Yeah.
You really want to know the perfect liberal Democrat squad-like mentality here and their response to the fires? I turn your attention to the city of Sacramento, California, which is the capital city in Sacramento. Dominated by Democrats, like super majorities. Republicans don't have a say in anything that goes on in this state, literally, all right? They called an emergency legislative session to begin yesterday, and they gavelled it into session. Everyone's like, "Oh, good."
For resources to fight the fire, right?
Yeah, that's what you would think. Oh, finally, the Democrats are doing something. Emergency session so that we can help the people of Los Angeles. No, ma'am, you'd be wrong. The emergency session that Democrats gavelled into order yesterday in Sacramento is to figure out ways they can resist the Trump administration.
Oh, you've got to be joking me.
I wish I was joking. Here is the Speaker of California's Assembly, Robert Rivas, taking questions, and I got to hand it to Ashley Zavala, who I'm pretty sure is a liberal Democrat because she's a TV reporter in Sacramento. But she says, is this the right time to do this? Listen.
With that, I mean, with what you just mentioned and kicked off here, is now the right time to have a special legislative session on allocating money to fight Trump in a way that you could already do without a special legislative session?
So I'm here to address these wildfires. This is a historic wildfire.
Yeah, by the way, when he says I'm here to address the wildfires, he doesn't mean in terms of taking responsibility, allocating money, explaining what went wrong. He made a statement about the wildfires,
yes.
But the reason for the legislative session is to figure out how they can spend money to legally fight the Trump administration. So she keeps pressing him.
This is a historic event. These wildfires, as I mentioned, are going to be quite possibly some of the worst wildfires and disasters in state and in national history.
While this wildfire is happening, and while people are trying to understand what's going on and are worried about disaster relief, worried about the ability to get homeowners insurance, your chamber gavelled into a special legislative session to prepare for Donald Trump in a way that you are already able to do without a special legislative session. So again, is now the right time for that?
So certainly our focus right now is Speaker, Ashley. At this moment, my colleagues and I, we are acting with great urgency to ensure that we're providing much-needed relief to Angelenos.
She won't answer the question. He won't answer the question. But good for her. Good for Ashley Zavala to actually press
Absolutely.
that issue. It's all grandstanding. It's all grandstanding. Look at us. We're going to resist Trump on behalf of California, and they gavelled this session in while people
for just
are
that
literally,
purpose.
The death toll's up to 10 now. And this is what they're doing in Sacramento.
Was it weird that he said, we, the speaker, I mean, he talked about the speakership as though it's a we thing.
He was stumbling. He said we as speaker. He was,
But, I mean, I think it speaks to this idea that he's a weak leader. And so he's not going with he's not leading and saying, no, this is the reason why I'm leading the session based on what I think is most important to Angelinans. It should be the wildfires. No, it's about stopping Trump. That's what everyone in this legislature cares most about. So that tells you everything you need to know, Californians.
You heard mention there about insurance companies, and I'm sure you've seen that people have found out that their insurance was canceled before these fires happened.
Prior to the
69%
fires,
of the people.
yes.
Yeah, so Patrick Bet-David's podcast, it's always, CEOs and business leaders who talk about issues. And he had Tom Ellsworth, who is a CEO, on the podcast. And Tom Ellsworth is a CEO as well, an investor, and he's looked into this. Listen to this. He's got information from State Farm as to why last year they canceled 69% of their policies in the Palisades.
Data point this morning confirmed. State Farm said last year, we're non-renewing 69% of the homes we insure currently today in Palisades. Why? Long-term brush risk and poor management of the common area.
You can't blame them.
No, I'm not blaming them.
I know you're not, but what I'm saying is you cannot blame. The business has to make profits, and when the regulators make their life a living hell and make them look bad, what do you want us to do, take a loss every year?
That's right. What happened in California is the state government restricted insurance companies from raising their rates, and they basically Marxism. They locked in all the rates and said, okay, you can't raise the rates. State Farm looks in and says, all right, I've got brush fire risk in Palisades. These homes are worth millions of dollars. The county and the state are not managing the forest. They're not doing anything to get rid of this. They assessed the risk. They said, we can't raise rates, then we're not going to provide insurance anymore. We can't do it because of the mismanagement from the state and the county. And so they pulled out and they said, we're going to have to cancel your insurance. And now you've got people who, if they couldn't get it replaced, and God knows State Farm does not stand alone, they now have no insurance for their houses.
And meanwhile, Pramila Jayapal is talking about corporations that got us into this mess.
That's
and
right.
They can't
And
escape
climate change.
Climate change.
That's
no,
right.
That's the left is so divorced from reality, from the economics, basic principles of how businesses operate, and frankly, from the humanity of people who they're supposed to represent. All they care about is their own limited viewpoint on an incorrect viewpoint, frankly, on some of their priorities. That's it.
Oh,
That's
they're
all
wrong.
They care
Of course,
about.
they're wrong.
They're
but,
ideologically
they never
driven.
have to apologize for being wrong while people die. Also, Joe Biden yesterday guaranteed that 100% of the cost of these fires will be backed by the federal taxpayers. So the taxpayers in Oklahoma, North Dakota, and Maine are going to pay for the incompetence of Gavin Newsom and the Democrats in California. And at the same time, people who are living in tents in the freezing, below freezing temperatures in Western Kentucky, or excuse me, Western North Carolina, were told that they're out of money at FEMA to help them out. So, North Carolina, if you had only voted for Kamala Harris, maybe you'd get some more money like California. It's 5:50.